Welcome back.
Welcome
Welcome
back.
back to Basic Banter for Witches.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
You
Here we
made it
go.
back another week.
Exactly. Another day, another week, another podcast. Yes.
Another
Yes.
time. But we are
Exactly.
so excited because we have
hmm
another special guest today.
I
We
know.
have both known her in many
hmm
two very different ways. And we're so excited to finally be able to kind of share her with everybody.
Yes.
It's the most amazing woman in this world who helped bring my baby into the world,
Yes.
Karmen Currie. Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, of course. Thanks for coming. It's truly
Yeah.
like a colliding of worlds here. Like we do
Yeah.
know you from two completely different paths.
Mhm.
Like it's funny because okay, let's start from the beginning maybe.
Yeah.
So, Miss Carmen, when I did my intro to spiritual gifts class, you were one of my classmates, I guess, of sorts, right? And then, as we've discussed in previous podcasts, Bev had a rule that like you really couldn't get to know anybody. It was like, don't be friends. You can't be friends yet. You
Yes,
have to like,
that's
you
right.
have to like, you can't exchange phone numbers. You can't get to know one another because then, like, when we're doing our practicing, it's like legitimate and whatever. So, um, yeah. So we didn't, right? And I missed the last class, so I wasn't able to really do any of that. And then, well, that's my half is how I met you. And
Yeah.
then Brittany, I'll let you take over your part and then
Yeah.
I'll come back at the end. Does that sound?
Well, so Miss Bev Lazar, who we talk about pretty much every episode.
Every
Bev.
freaking episode. Hi. Hi, Bev.
So it was Bev and Dr. Stacy,
hmm
who is one of our other guests that we've at this
Yes.
point we should have done it already, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Both of them were just like, do you need a doula? You need a doula. As soon as I was pregnant, like, you need a doula. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, but like, I don't get it. And they're like, this
Yeah.
is all you need to do is just contact this number. And it was
Yeah.
and they both had done it. And I was like, okay, I'll just think about it for a little bit. So I like added you on Instagram and I like looked through your things and I was like, well, and they're like, listen, Brittany, you're very much into the like whole like the spiritual side of everything. She's right on the same path as you. Why
hmm
don't you just connect with her? And I was like, okay. I was like, this is my luck that you'd be like booked solid and it wouldn't work out. But everything
hmm
works out for a reason.
Yeah.
And in our case, you were able to be there for us, which was amazing. You put
Yes.
up with a lot of my weird shit, which was awesome.
No,
It was weird. I was just
you were
like,
not weird at all. You were
What?
beautiful.
What's weird about having a child? Tell me.
no, I was just being, I had so many freaking questions that I was like, Carmen, what about this? Carmen, what about this?
I
Hell,
love that though. That's
Like,
the best part.
I think any mother for the first time has a book full of questions, and then as soon as like they're in it, that there's more. It's I still have questions. That's
Yeah.
just that is exactly what it is, Britt. So
yeah.
weird to
Yeah.
you, but so standard.
Yeah, right.
Appreciated it so much. I loved it. Yeah.
Good. Well, and I was so grateful too because you had brought us a gift after Harrison was born, and it was this beautiful little blanket that your mom had made.
Oh yeah.
And like Harrison, that is his go blanket. Like that's
Really?
that goes with him every time we leave the house. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
Yeah.
special. I'll make sure I tell my mom that. She'll think
Yeah.
it's even more special.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely like his blanket that goes on his lap every time we leave the house. So
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice to
Yeah.
hear.
yeah.
It's so great. Yeah. So like the way that this all came about is still like crazy to me. So obviously you and Brittany got connected through Bev and through Dr. Stacy, but Brittany had always been talking about Carmen the doula, and I was like, cool beans. Like I wasn't in Canada, so I was just like, sure, cool, you know. And then it it was like
It was the day he was born.
the day he was
Yeah.
born. That's
Yeah.
when we figured out that I was like, wait a second, like I went to school with the Carmen. I'm like, we're not school,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
close
Our
to the
school.
Carmen. I'm like the only Carmen that I know, right? I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
God. And I still like I still haven't been able to like physically cross paths with you since then. But I
Yeah.
mean, in our sense, it's like, oh my gosh, like it was meant to be a full roundabout moment. And like Brittany and I always talk about like our what is it, our soul family, right? It's
Yeah.
like people kind of just keep intertwining, and it's just like so great. So I love it.
I know. I just have to tell my side of that
Yeah, of
story is
course.
that we were in the hospital, like
Yeah.
Brittany and I
Mhm.
and her husband, Brian, and we were sitting in your room and you started talking about your sister. And you're like, yeah, she lives in Ireland and she just moved there like this summer, and she's probably coming back down and she has kids this age. And I was like, what's your sister's name?
Yeah.
And she's like, Jess. I'm like, I think I know her.
Yes.
I'm
Oh,
like,
it's funny.
okay, I need to see a picture of her. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
It was so wild. Like I was just like, how? And then just for how timing works, because you had to
Yeah.
go before Jessica could come in, and I was just like,
yes,
oh, dang it! If
I
only we could have done
know.
it at the same time.
And then you would
yeah,
come to the house and I was like, oh, we'll make this work. And I can't remember why, but I don't know
Yeah,
if I had to work. Who
yeah,
knows? It was such a
something
like,
super
I
weird.
was there for 12 weeks. I was in Canada for 12 weeks and I still didn't see like most of the people that I would have ever intended to. It's
Yeah,
just crazy. But yeah,
just the
so
wild
nuts.
time.
I
I
know.
love it though. That's just
Yeah.
how the world is supposed to work, right? It's
Yeah.
just being connected that way.
I
Oh,
Exactly.
agree.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we, have established kind of how we know you, um, let's chat. What do you do, Carmen? Like
Yeah.
what's your gig? What's your I guess like what do you do now? And then we kind of like venture back in time to see where it all started. Does that sound
Okay.
fair?
Yeah, that sounds great. So right now, currently, I'm teaching yoga, which I've taught for almost 11 years. In September, it'll be 11 years. I teach a lot. I used to teach a very physical practice, and now I teach more of a spiritual, restorative, therapeutic practice that involves like meditation, breath work, and then some very subtle, soft, like supple poses to really allow the nervous system to reconfigure, recalibrate. Kind of my biggest purpose for people is to make sure that we're recalibrating the nervous system and it comes down to that level. It's not just about the physical. Um,
It's
It's
all good.
okay. It's okay.
Go
She
ahead.
can come in.
She
Yeah.
may have a
She wants to show her
snack.
face. She definitely
Yeah.
can.
She said, can I have the last cookie? Yes, you can.
Yeah, girl.
And then so from there, and then I'm also a birth doula, and I've been a
Yes.
birth doula for about 6 years now. Through COVID, of course, I kind of took a little break there. But other than that, I've been a birth doula for about 6 years, and I absolutely love it. I don't take on a ton of clients. Like I want clients, of course, but I'm always trying to find that nice balance. So maybe one a month is like my max. I would take on two if like I knew that I was in alignment with that person or
Yeah.
something like that, or I knew I couldn't say no. But generally it's just one a month because I feel like it usually takes me like a couple of days to like come back to life after I've supported someone through
Yeah.
like the
Okay.
night or through a couple of days. And so it's just nice to have that. But that's something that I just like, I absolutely love to do is to support women when they're in their most beautiful
Yeah.
state, which is through that labor, delivery, postpartum period. And it's also such like a new playing field for women, right? It's this new venture, it's this new awakening that women go through when they become a mother. And I just love to
Yeah.
be there to witness that
Yeah.
in the vulnerability of it and all of that. And just to like diffuse a lot of the stuff that kind of mainstream society expects of new mothers and things like that. And so I just like to diffuse all that and be like, no, this is how you do it. This is what you should be doing, so
Hmm.
that you feel like you can navigate it in a much more tangible way or like a way that feels good to you as a
Hmm.
mother. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
And
I
then, yeah,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, I was just saying like that's like it's so especially in today's world. I'm not obviously a doula, but I like appreciate everything that doulas and birth coaches do because it's like so important, especially and it's scary as hell. And it's scary the
Yeah.
first time, the second time, it's always scary, right? It is like but it is an empowering thing that, we as women can, produce or when we can produce and when we, can go through the labor, it's life changing, right?
Exactly. And I also always say, like, having a child can be empowering or it can be disempowering,
Mhm.
and it depends what support you've gotten or how you've navigated it or what support has navigated you
Mhm.
in that process. And I always like my biggest desire and intention behind it is so that women can come out of it feeling empowered in that
Yeah.
position. Because like motherhood is hard. It is
Yeah.
so hard, especially in today's society and the
Yeah.
expectations that we've given women and just the lack of support. And so I deeply every woman that I have, I just put everything into it, thinking like, my biggest hope for you is that you can feel that support and that love and that nourishment that you deserve, that every woman deserves.
Mhm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you brought up
exactly.
like so many good things like that I would never really thought about asking questions about, or, like even talking about creating a birth plan, figuring out like what that is, and like literally to the extent of like, if, because I remember saying like I find when there's difficult situations, if I can laugh or like get people laughing, then I feel way more calm.
Yeah.
And so that was like part of the birth plan that I never even thought about. You could put it in there, be like, we love jokes. Feel free to joke around with us. Um, and that kind of stuff, like just helped lighten the mood. And like, thankfully, everyone was, I don't know if it was just because it was the first surgery of the day, because I had a C-section, that everyone was just like, yeah, like we're pumped to do this. Everyone was
Yeah.
just like having a great day. So I was like, oh, this
Exactly.
is
I
so
think
good.
in terms of like yours wasn't an emergency C-section either.
No,
It was
that's
like,
true.
let's plan. It's a birthday. Like it
That's
is
right.
like they came with their
Exactly.
party hats ready to do this. It wasn't, the
Yeah.
circumstances weren't like rushed, or there was no, anything going on that needed to be, expedited in that sense. So I think it was
Well,
couldn't
that's
have
it. And that's
asked
why
better.
I was so happy too to have Carmen for a doula too, because a lot of people think when you need a doula, you're only having one type of birth,
Yeah.
and you're only going to be supported in this way. Where going into it, not only did I need support, but my partner needed support. And I was like, you're not just here for me. You're here to make sure that he stays level
Yeah.
headed. He doesn't just
Yeah.
run out of here.
Yeah.
He's going to need a hug and a pep talk, and I will not be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
so true, Brittany, because, and the other part I just want to touch on is,
Hmm.
um, it was all like you said, everyone was in this great mood and everything. Well, you were in a great mood too.
Hmm.
It was the intention that you put behind it and everyone else kind of followed.
Yeah.
Fair
And
enough.
then you had a birth plan. So they had read your birth plan and they saw, oh, okay, like she wants to have this a very lighthearted experience. Like,
Yeah.
so they put that into it. So it's important to have that birth plan,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
so that they can navigate it like that for you because you put the intention into it. So
Right.
it has a lot, and I agree with you, Jess. It's true. Like
Hmm.
it wasn't an emergency, it wasn't chaotic. It was like, this is a plan. We've got this. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And you're
It's
right.
all in your
Like,
perspective.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I put together my birth plans, like I was so on like the serious side of it. Again, looking back, like retrospective, I never would have thought to put that in there because most people put like candles or music. And they want to, bring the energy down because we want to be, cool, instead of like bringing up raising the vibration in like a really
Yeah.
nice, like energetic way. I mean,
Totally.
not saying I would have laughed through either of my births, but but it would have been like it would have
You can
really
laugh at them now, though,
now I can
Jessica.
laugh at them. Oh my god.
Jessica
Yes.
has like this moment that I will never forget.
Fantastic.
She's just like my favorite moment that she told me about after she was finished with her first birth was she's like, it's like I had an out of body experience because I screamed so high and then so low that I didn't even know that was
Like
me.
like really short because we're not a birth podcast, right? But like yeah, I had an epidural. Sorry, my water broke. And then they checked me and then they were like, well, we should induce you now because you're at risk for infection, yada, yada, so then we decided to get the inducement. And like, so I was going from like 0 to it was just horrendous. Got the epidural. The
Yep.
epidural failed. Like they're doing
Yeah.
the ice test. And I feel every bit of that. It should feel, I'm like, no, it's there. Like anyways, it was so bad. Anyways, so and I had second degree tearing. It was a whole bit. Like my son
Yeah.
came in. He
He
was
was real.
there. He was
He
there.
was
He was
like,
stuck on my hip. We needed suction. It was just like,
oh.
but yeah, the screaming. I never thought I could make those. I couldn't duplicate those sounds that I was making today. Like I couldn't.
I remember you trying just because you were just like, ah.
Like it was. I couldn't. I don't know. Like even Ryan was like crying. Like, oh yeah, we're both with Ryan's. I don't know if you knew that, Carmen,
Yeah,
but
I knew that.
yeah.
Yeah, we
She
both
told
know
me
So
that.
it's like my Ryan is like standing there crying because he doesn't know what to do, and I'm like scream. I don't even know. I'm like, I wouldn't even call it moaning because it was
Yeah.
like screeching.
Like try to replicate the lowest part.
I don't know. Like I can't even. I don't even know where. Like I don't know where my octave should even be. I'm like, oh, it was like devilish, like growl.
That's
But like,
that's quite normal.
but like, it didn't feel normal. And I've seen birthing
No.
videos and stuff. Like it wasn't controlled. There was nothing in my control at all in that labor. Literally, it was like complete chaos. That's all I remember. All I remember is being everywhere in the room at once. And whereas like with my second, with Maria, it wasn't like I didn't do hypnobirthing, but I did I just advocated a lot more for myself. And I used smells as my like my grounding scent kind of thing. Like so when I was pushing and when I was going through that, I'm like smelling my put it on my wrist. I was smelling my wrist and like taking deep breaths. And I was able to labor at home up to 7 centimeters. And then we went to the hospital, still got the epidural. You know, it was great. For me, that was just what I chose, right? And it worked out the second time, you know, but yes. Yeah, that first
I
one.
know.
It'll work a number on you. And only because
benefited well with Karmen.
only with I'm sure I would have with one more little anecdote on my first birth, because again, but like after, so Colin, my son, he came out at Happy Days. I'm in the shower, I'm feeling a little woozy, like, so anyways, I came out and I'm like, I just need to sit down, like I feel like I'm gonna faint, so they brought me out in the chair, I'm all clean, and like my mom and dad are there and Colin are there, and I'm like slowly seeing like the buildings out of the window disappear. I'm like, the buildings are gone, like I'm gonna faint, and I'm sitting in the wheelchair, and I just was like so my dad came over, they gave me a ginger ale, and what does my father do? Well, he takes a picture, because
Time for a photo.
We got to remember that. So there's this photo of me like literally having just birthed in the last like hour and a half, whatever it was, and it's me going like
her eyes.
Like, I like dead.
This photo because her eyes, they're not even hers.
They're like,
really,
I had makeup
like
on from I don't know when. Like I don't think I had makeup on, but like apparently there was. Like I don't even know. That's what I mean. I'm like, it was so dark that I look like.
Wow,
it's so funny.
Dramatic.
But like maybe now is the time that I share that photo on social media. I have not shared it yet, but we talked about it, and I'm totally not afraid to share it, because it is I share it with like all my friends who are about to have a birth. I'm like, this is just so those really nice like hospital births where like the mom's all like done up and like, and I'm like it's so bad, Karmen, you have no idea. I'll send it to you.
It's the best because we didn't find it until a year later.
Exactly. My dad's like, look, and I was like,
no, that picture existed until he was almost a year old. And Jessica, I remember like bawling. I was laughing so hard, because I was like, what happened to you?
Friends of mine, like my friend Taylor, will text me from time to time saying, can you send me that picture? I really need to see it. I'm like, perfect. So she's seen it like a few times, but it's like a good boost. Like,
oh, it's so fantastic. We'll probably post it in on our Instagram.
We'll see. I gotta be brave enough. I gotta be brave enough to post it, but I think I'll just have to do it. I think it'll
be worth it.
It's too good not to share. It really
is. That's the thing. It'll brighten everyone's day. And if whoever's pregnant right now, you're going through it, or don't have like the most amazing memories about their birth, they can be like, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So funny. Anyways, okay, cool. Well, that's that.
I love that.
That you not only see people that go I'm not sure if you've been a part of like home births before, but if you have had that opportunity, that's definitely what I would assume doulas would be amazing for, supporting for home births, hospital births, like vaginal delivery. And then I didn't realize C-sections could still be so supported. So I'm so happy that it didn't seem like the norm, but I was so grateful that you were able to support both of us.
Yeah, I was so grateful too. Yes, I was so grateful. And it's something we overlook in cesareans. Like lots of people think, well, no, like I don't need the help, but I've done a couple cesareans, and they're just so overly grateful, because you yourself as the mother can't get out of bed yet. You can't do as much as you'd like to do, as even that you understand that you can't or cannot do prior to it, and so just to have another helping hand there for the dad is huge. They feel so much more comforting, because it's new, everything is new to them. Most men, and this is maybe a blanket statement, but a lot of men haven't really held a baby yet.
That's right.
Like they're not, men just aren't interested in that. That's not innate in their design to like want to hold everyone's babies, and so it was really nice.
There's a lot of people like that, I think, like men and women, and however we identify. It's like, you're right, it's like you may not encounter that interaction until it's your own. It is
or
scary.
Maybe you have a sibling, because I really like it's not common unless someone has a sibling or close friend or themselves. You're right.
Yeah. Oh, I guess, it's just because we're on the topic and that's what we do on this podcast is we kind of just shoot all over the place.
Yeah.
When we had Lindsay over at your house, Brittany, and Harrison was just little, and I just picked
Mhm.
up Harrison and I'm burping him, and she's like looking at me like, I didn't know I would not be comfortable doing that with the baby because I just like picked him up and I'm like, like, like that. I'm
And he
burping the
was- you're
baby.
doing the- yeah.
And he's like,
That's the stuff right there.
like
Yeah.
it's recording, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, this is, and I'm really like giving him the burps, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yes.
fine, it's stuck in there, Anyways, but no.
Yeah. Oh God.
So yes,
Funny.
back on track here.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so now that you are starting to incorporate some of that other stuff into like your doula work and your yoga work, breath work and energy work, prior to doing the intro to spiritual gifts course, were you doing any of that, or like how did that start for you? Where was that instance that it made sense to do it?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I've always felt like I've had a very deep spiritual connection, but I could never really label it, even as a young child. I would have what I didn't, again, I didn't have labels back then, but like I would have premonitions, like I would think like, oh, like I one day woke up and I'm like, oh, I think my grandpa's gonna pass today.
Mm,
Wow.
And then I got a phone call or someone phoned and said, grandpa passed away today.
mhm.
Just things like that. And so I never had like a label for anything, but I was like, oh, interesting. Like I can really, that happens. Okay. But I never really considered it to be anything unique or special.
Mhm.
That was what I did. And it was who I was. And no one ever questioned it or no one ever talked about it. So it just felt normal to me.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was a very highly sensitive kid too. So I was, in the school system, I didn't really enjoy it at all. Like it was
Okay.
just so overwhelming and I could feel everyone else's feelings around me. So it felt very cloudy and like overwhelming and things like that as a child.
Wow.
My parents were very open. They were hippies.
I love that.
They were in the 70s, hardcore hippies. So we lived a pretty granola life. So it kind of felt suiting. Like it felt like, okay, this is normal to me. It wasn't like I was this outsider from my family, but we
Right.
still didn't talk about spirituality. We weren't religious either.
Mhm.
Anyways, so fast forward, into my adulthood, I still had all of this. And that's kind of why I navigated into yoga first. I kind of started just practicing yoga and I felt this deeper connection to like my heart center and my breath and how it's like all beautifully connected. And then then I became a yoga instructor, yeah, about 11 years ago. And then that helped me get on the path, but it never seemed like enough. Like I always felt restricted even in the yoga practice,
Oh.
depending on what studio you're teaching at and their expectations of you and the fear of like maybe opening up a little too much in a yoga practice for the comfort of the
Mhm.
the practitioner or the students and things like that. And then I had kids and then it all just like came crumbling down. I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm depressed. I had really, I wouldn't say severe, but I had postpartum depression with my son, my first.
Mhm.
And I questioned everything, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but, we all have this innate wisdom as mothers, right? But it's stifled like through the expectations of our family and our in-laws and our friends and just society's norms and everything. And I felt like everything I was doing was kind of going against the grain of that innate wisdom that I had within me.
Mhm.
And so I just felt like I was like crumbling. And then I met Dr. Stacy, which really felt
Yeah.
really good to me. So I had a doula with Owen, and she recommended Dr. Stacy. So I started taking Owen to her because Owen was very colicky too. And so I started going to Dr. Stacy. That was almost 10 years ago. You can
Oh.
believe that. And
Amazing.
so um, I started to dabble a little bit more into my own spirituality, just on my own through books, through meditations, through, little things here and there. But I was so like engrossed into motherhood because then I had my daughter a year and a half later after Owen. So they're very close together. So I was just engrossed in that and
Mhm.
didn't really have the space for myself. And then just when we did the spiritual development with Bev. Was that a year ago?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
feels like
Yeah.
so much longer ago,
This
but
is
it
only
really,
July, so about a
I
year and
know
months.
it was a year and a couple months. Yeah,
yeah, like I can't believe that. It
yeah,
feels so much longer. It's crazy what you can get done in a year,
yeah,
Yeah.
right?
exactly. All of a
Or what
sudden,
you
here
can
we are.
accomplish.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um, and then I just had this. Bev came to one of my yoga classes in Martinsville,
Nice.
and we just had this moment together. And I was like, and I've always had this spiritual sense, and we just like looked at each other. She came up and thanked me for the class, and we just kind of like glanced back at each other, like,
Yeah,
oh, I like need to be like a
you're my
part
friend.
of whatever you're doing, like,
Oh, I love
Exactly. Yeah.
that.
and so, and then like a couple days later, my best friend Steph, um, she messaged me like on Instagram saying like, you need to take this, and it was Bev Spiritual Development Level 1.
Yeah.
And I
Amazing.
was like, yeah, I know. I'm like, I know I need to do it. I just like have to like figure my, stuff out. And then I started taking that. And then I did level 1 and level 2. And now I'm just finishing up my Reiki training with her.
Oh, yay.
Fabulous. Oh, that's
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
wonderful. Honestly,
Yeah. So
like,
that's like,
oh, wow. Go ahead.
Are you
yeah,
gonna
no,
be doing like your masters as well with her too, or just level 1 and 2, or what would you?
I assume I'll probably do my master's for sure. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know when or how that works yet, but I definitely think I will. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's so
Yeah.
great.
So
Isn't it crazy how you feel like you're like jumping off of like a diving board into like this huge pool of different wonderful things
Mhm.
you can incorporate in your life?
it was, and
Mhm.
it just felt like our first level 1. I felt like it was like the first time I felt like I was with like-minded people,
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
where
definitely.
I was like, oh, like actually other people feel this way and think like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, like
You
I
can
am in the
talk
right
openly about
spot.
it.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Where you can kind of
yeah,
like open up to those scary things. And I mean scary as in like they're intimidating and there's no way to like they're not concrete, they're not tangible, you can't hold them. But it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. People
yeah,
can validate that back saying it's okay to feel that way about it, right? It's imposter syndrome basically. But yeah,
exactly.
we had such a great crop of people as well. And like you remember Jamie from the Burgeoning Point? Yes. So we had her on and we were on our podcast, and we also had one of the joint was it a full moon? Yeah, it was a full moon ritual that we did
Yes,
with
because
her.
Yes,
I think that you guys were going to
Yes.
be connecting together to do something,
Like
weren't
the
you?
next
yeah,
one,
and
I
then
think.
we did. Yeah, I think yeah, just when was that? In June?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
just did one together. Yeah, it was so nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I
like,
love Jamie. We did level 1 together.
yeah, yeah,
Or sorry, level 1, of course. And we also did level 2.
yeah.
Oh,
And then
amazing.
we are doing our Reiki together as
Oh,
well.
Oh, she's doing Reiki. Oh, that's
yay.
good. Oh, I think I knew that. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to her in a while, but oh,
Amazing.
that's so nice. Like seriously, this is what I mean by soul family. It's
Yeah.
like the friends that you can make along the way. It's just remarkable. I like part of me again. This is like always like in the back of my mind. Like it always sounds like kind of culty when I'm like, oh, and I met this person through our spiritualist, not church, but our gatherings, and I'm like, and like you know how it's
It's that,
changed our lives. Like it's like it
yeah.
has though. Like it hasn't
But
changed
it's all
us.
about what
It's
you think, Jess,
enhanced us.
too.
Oh
Some people
yes.
might think it's a cult, but
Oh,
it's really like a group of friends that just
no, exactly.
that
It's
like
just
the same thing.
yeah, we're
Yes.
expanding on ourselves, right? We're not changing
Yeah.
anything about ourselves. We're just
Yeah.
enhancing the gifts that we already have, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And like also for me it was enhancing it, but it was also feeling very comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Learning
know
to
what I
use
mean?
them.
And like
Yeah.
being okay that that's who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like and talking about it with people that might not understand fully, but you're so comfortable with it that it
Yeah.
feels okay to talk
Yeah.
about it with people. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, I have boundaries with people and,
Yes. Yeah.
know when to open up to people and not, because
Yeah.
some people aren't ready to hear some of that. And I
Yeah.
respect that a lot.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good experience,
It
though.
is so
Oh,
good. Yeah.
Definitely. Bev, if
Oh
you're
wow.
listening, and we know that you're up, that you are, thanks for
Yeah.
pulling us all together.
Beverly. Exactly. Our girl Bev. Seriously, it's so funny. Every freaking
no.
episode we mention her, I feel like she just had like a
Yeah.
floating head always in our like just around
Yeah.
being like
Like she's just joining us. She's like, I'm here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Exactly.
So When it comes to doing breath work, what made
Mm.
you was that so because I'm not super familiar with it, was that something that you found when you started practicing as a yoga instructor, or was that something that you found before then or after? Like, what would
Yeah, it's
sorry, what?
interesting because I had to really think about this. I was thinking about, okay, well, when did I start doing breath work? Like, what was it that triggered me to like really enjoy doing breath work?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had to think back when I was young. I was probably like 12 years old. Or I don't know. That's my guess. I was probably like 11 or 12 in there.
Yeah.
I actually started, I remember, always remember if I felt overwhelmed or like, and I never again labeled it. It was just like feelings that were coming up.
Yeah.
Um, if I felt that overwhelming feelings or like anxiety or depression or anything like that. I remember when I was little, I would breathe in white and breathe out black.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
And like, I had no idea what that meant. But for me, in that moment when I was a little girl, like that felt so replenishing. And like, and now when I look back on it, it's like I was breathing out the darkness that was maybe, you know, kind of sitting in my body
Yeah.
that wasn't feeling good. And then I was breathing in that light, that beautiful
Oh,
divine light.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, Owen. Sorry.
No, it's
Okay.
okay, don't worry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
He can jump on here too, whatever.
Totally welcome. It's
We
all
don't
good.
care.
Like, there's always going to be interruptions. That's just the
I
nature of
know.
life. Yeah.
Literally, that's the nature of our podcast. If it's
Mhm.
not either of our kids, like sometimes Colin's in the background, sometimes Maria, sometimes Harrison,
Sometimes
sometimes the
Ryan.
dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes when
Sometimes
you see in Jessica's screen, you'll
clothes.
actually one of the last times, Jess. I didn't even tell you. Ryan didn't know your podcast, and I see his like head going, and he's like,
It was like, because like there's like the gap there, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
I've ever seen his head going, and then like,
yeah, I think because Colin was also looking for me as well. I know. And then
oh,
like sometimes I have my camera angled differently and there's like clothes billowing and it looks like
oh
someone, but it's
yeah,
not, or it's just
yeah.
what it
Yeah.
is. We accept it all
Gosh.
here. Just let
No,
it
it's all
flow.
good. If your little people
Exactly.
want to join in, it's all good. Don't worry.
No, he was just asking me
Exactly.
to play video games.
Oh,
Nice.
nice. Yeah, fair enough.
Very good. Um,
Yeah, so I just that's kind of my foundation of it when I was a little girl is breath work in that
yeah.
regard. And
Amazing.
then when I started practicing yoga, there was these moments where you'd be practicing like this big yoga practice and your heart rate would be pounding and you could feel it inside your chest. But you had this like smooth, deep breath going. So it wasn't, you weren't like in the rate of your heart, but you were like breathing so contently with this pounding heart. And it was in those moments that it felt like serene
Hmm.
and you could feel like this peace moving in your body and outside of you. And it just felt so good. Um, and then that was again in my younger years. And that felt really good. That's what really gravitated me to yoga and that connection with the breath and things like that and moving with your breath, just like moving back and forth with your breath. And then when I became a mother, breath became very different for me. It became more of like, I want to say like a survival tool.
Yeah.
You know, like I used my breath when I felt those impatient feelings, that frustrational motherhood feelings that you
Hmm.
feel, those overwhelming, like, exasperating feelings that you get when you're a mother.
Yes,
Yeah.
And then
exactly.
to
Yeah.
just like tap into your breath and to just like sit with your hand on your heart and like take those cycles of breath like over and over again and just feel your nervous system like pulsating down into like shifting into a much more calmer state and being like, oh, okay, I can do this. I got this. Like I can
Yeah.
move through this day without having to freak out on everyone,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Amazing.
it's
Yeah.
such a, and I always say this in all my classes, like your breath is your best friend, your tool that you have at all times. Like
Mhm.
you don't have your yoga mat at all times. You can't get down into child's pose. You can't go hide yourself sometimes when you're in a public setting or with your children or whatever, but you always have your breath. You always have this beautiful tool that like immediately when you take that first breath, it's a signal to your nervous system that you're okay, that you're safe, that you're in a safe environment, that your body is safe. And so it just immediately triggers
Yeah.
and sends your whole self into a much calmer state.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of use my breath now. And then I also use my breath as getting into a deeper state of meditation now, like through into like the magic and the spiritual practice. That's
Right.
what from right now. That's how I use it, because I feel like motherhood is still difficult and it's still hard. But when you have those little ones, kind of like you guys have,
Mhm.
I used it in a survival way,
Yeah.
and now
Yes.
it's more like for me, it's more my breath. It's for me to deepen my spirituality, to deepen my practice, to
Yeah.
go deep into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I always
Yeah.
find that like no matter what my days look like, leading up to recording or like doing an interview like this, it always has to do with what we're chatting about, which me and my sister-in-law just had her second baby. So he's like weeks old and she's like, not struggling. I mean, she's doing fantastic, but it is to the point where like, I just feel like some days I'm just going to snap, and I'm like, it's, yeah. And it doesn't really get easier as like my kids are a little bit older, but like, it's like just yeah, anyways. So like that's breath work for you, is like that's so
Yeah.
important. And I'm going to share that little clip with her, I think, being like, okay, like if that's all we can do is breathe through it. Like I told her today, I'm like, I feel like there's moments when like Maria's tugging at me or whining or whatever, I'm like, I feel like I'm just dead inside because I haven't, like, I'm just so far past caring. Like,
Yeah.
stop. Just like I don't have any energy for this anymore. And it's like, how do you reserve that for yourself? Wait another 6 years? She's 8, like how are
Oh,
we gonna
it's
do it?
true.
It's like survival of the fittest in here. So yeah.
It is. It's so true. And it's just like, I think every mother goes through that in some, regard. And we all have to navigate it somehow. Like we
Yeah.
can't just ignore it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of our coping mechanism, is to ignore it
Yeah.
and to just be like, okay, like fine, whatever, I'll get this over with
Yeah.
and then I can move on and everything will be better later when they're sleeping and I can have a moment to myself.
Yeah,
But what
exactly.
about in the midst of those moments,
Yeah.
And
Ooh.
it's so to have that breath in the midst of those moments. And the more you do it, the more you connect with your breath, the better you get at it and the faster you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like a meditative practice. You guys probably know this. Like the more you meditate, the faster you can get into your meditation. The
Mm-hmm.
faster you move into that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Wow.
the
Yeah.
same way with breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Wild.
wonderful.
Yeah, that's so true. I definitely feel like there are some days where I'm either super shallow breathing or I feel like I'm holding my breath where I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
you take a full breath and you're like, was I not breathing?
Like, was I
What just,
actually, yeah, was I holding
where,
my breath
where
that whole
was
time?
I?
Exactly. I mean, thank God that your breath is on autopilot, because if I had to remember to breathe, I would not be here today, I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be like eating every day where you're like, LOL, guess we'll
Like
try again tomorrow.
lols, exactly. Like, oh, I forgot to do that. Exactly. I haven't peed in 5-7 hours, whatever. 5-7. Yeah. Anyways. Well, that's great. Well, that's
Oh
No,
my
wonderful.
it's so
God.
true.
So what do you think is next for you? So obviously you're working on your
Yeah.
Reiki and getting that kind of established there. Is your plan to incorporate that into yoga, or, tell us a little bit about where we're going here?
A little bit of both. So
Nice.
actually, right now, I'm in my basement right now, but in another room in my basement, my husband is just kind of building me a space. So I'm going
Okay.
to have a little private at home um, Reiki space.
Yay.
I'll also, so yeah, I'll definitely be offering Reiki. I'll definitely start offering intuitive guidance to anyone that's interested in that type of work. Um, and then I would love to do some like one-on-one breath work, movement, meditation type of incorporating that into the practice as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know our assumption is that we do meditation and breath work and yoga like in a group setting, but it's actually very beneficial when you have that one-on-one so that you can really tailor that practice to you. Um, so I'll do that. I'm just in the midst of doing that. I'm hoping at the end of August I can start offering and kind of getting myself out there to start practicing Reiki on others.
Amazing.
And then I'll also incorporate it into some workshops. So I'm going to offer one in September here in Warman. at Quiet Life Yoga, and it's going to be restorative yoga, Reiki, and hands-on adjustments. So you'll get some nice, beautiful adjustments from me, some Reiki, and then I'll guide you through the practice as well.
Amazing.
And so it'll be a really, really therapeutic practice for people.
Yeah.
Be so yummy.
Yes. I
Yummy's a
love
good
that.
word. Exactly. Well, that sounds
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. So you've got that coming up. Any other events and stuff that our people should know about? Or
Yeah,
you'd like to
definitely. So
share?
I have I'm actually starting a motherhood circle.
Yay!
And
Sorry.
Oh,
yay,
yes,
I
I think
know.
you posted that. I don't know what that is, so tell us all about it.
Okay, I'll tell you. So the Motherhood Circle, it's in Warman here at Quiet Life Yoga. And it's going to be a small group. So probably like 8 to 10 women. That's it. That's kind of all I want because, you're welcome to bring your babies with you.
Mhm.
And that gets to a lot of people, to be a lot of people.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
want it to be this like beautiful circle where I can share knowledge about the wisdom
Mhm.
of mothers and the innate intuitive abilities that we all have that we kind of forget about when we become mothers because it becomes a survival mode instead of like
Mhm.
that innate wisdom that we have. It's like I always find mothers are reaching outside themselves for all the answers, but it's like, no, no, like we actually all have it in us. And it's
Yeah.
just like we need to be empowered and acknowledge that. So I want to
Yeah.
teach on that. But then the
Yeah.
also part is going to be about like sharing your struggles and also expressing your triumphs, because I don't want this to be about the negativity about motherhood. I want it to be about like offering up your those struggles and those hardships of motherhood, but then also looking at the lighter side of it, right? Looking at the good in it. And so it's not going to, so I wanted that to be the balance there. And then it's just a place for women to come with their babies or without their babies, to feel supported and to be with other women that are kind of experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's coming up. And then the other thing that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be offering a breathwork and meditation series again at Soul in Martinsville again in September, which
Nice.
is beautiful. And like I had such good response in the last one that I offered there. And it was just so beautiful. We just like talked about, how to ground ourselves, how to like center and bring more peace into our lives, kind of like actual things that we can do on our daily life. But then we go into some beautiful breath work, a few different breath work practices,
Mhm.
and then we go into a nice guided meditation each class. So that one's coming up.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping to offer some women's circles at Bev Space.
Lovely.
Hey,
That's a
oh,
lot, but like, man, it's like such a variety. There's something for like everyone.
yeah.
Honestly,
I
that's
know. I
nice.
know. That is like typical of me to be like, I'm doing everything.
You
Yeah,
know what?
watch out, world. Carmen's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's so good though. I mean, you would know if like you know as somebody who's in this field, like when it feels right, you have to do it, right? It's like you have to do it
Oh,
now. It's just the way it is. It's like I don't know why, I just gotta do it. It'll make sense later, but you know what?
I
You've got
agree.
you've got that to give. So that's fantastic.
Feel
Yeah.
like I'm at this like beautiful place in my life where, my kids are both in school full time
Mhm.
and I have just more space for myself. I have more space to tap into this, to see like what my heart desires and like what I want to be offering to women.
Yeah.
And like these are the things that like I've always wanted to offer, but it just hasn't been the right timing for
Yeah.
me. And so I just feel so good about this. I feel so excited.
Ah,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
I'm
so
so happy for you.
exciting.
That's
Honestly,
so
yeah, we're
amazing.
both very happy for you for finding this, you know, newfound passion and newfound of self too, right? It's, you're growing every day as a person.
Oh yes, every day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, we'll post
Yeah.
all of your fun things that everyone should know about and looking ahead, what you have created in our show notes, and we'll post it on
Social
Instagram, like on our post that we'll do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
so shall we pick a card for the week for the collective?
Yes. So
So
yeah.
again, another fun thing is we never know what exactly when this is coming out. So
Yeah.
you just kind of pull the card for what
Yeah.
you think everyone's going to need to hear that week.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, we
So
just channel like for what the collective may need to hear within that time frame whenever this
Yeah.
episode reaches their ears. Yeah. So I'm just gonna start my Brit whenever. Oh, guess whoever wants to go first can certainly go first.
I can go first here. I was shuffling a little bit and I got a card to come out finally. So I'm doing the Fountain Tarot
Oh,
today.
yeah, I love the fountain.
Like very fancy one where like all the cards are like a silver shiny bit on the end.
Yes.
Pretty.
I love it.
Silver shiny bits.
Ooh, this is a nice one. The King of Swords.
Fancy. Oh, it's lovely.
I know, I like that. Okay. Let's see here. I feel like that's going to be a good one. Yeah, wisdom and integrity. So the so let me just see here. Wisdom that is both perceptive and intelligent, a fair decision, integrity, harsh and sound advice, one who has earned authority, and analytical creativity. So that's interesting. Yeah, if you're open to a fair decision, even if it's not in your favor, the King of Swords counsel will be essential.
Can you show the card again? I just
Of
wanna read
course.
it. That's okay. Yeah. So like my first thought of like when I looked at that card was like I can see him and like it's almost like that top triangle is kind of like his protection and his cloud and his like not even armor necessarily, but like he's wearing
Like a cloak?
like light almost.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just like a radiant kind of cloak. Anyways, I don't know what that means, but it's like in terms of protection or
Yeah.
in terms of like what we, that part of ourselves that we finally want to like wear out and like show off a little bit. That's kind of what that feels like to me.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Beautiful.
Fun fact.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Did you want to go, Carmen, or do you want me to go?
I can go, sure.
Go for it.
My deck is the Gaia Oracle deck,
Awesome.
Perfect.
and I got this card. It's Yin Yang, creating harmony through balance.
Oh, that's so appropriate.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so funny how like it literally the picture is like exactly you. It's like, yep, this is Carmen's message. Of course, this is the perfect card for Carmen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, it says here, there's currently disharmony in some areas of your life due to your refusal to accept certain aspects of your personality. Nothing about you is bad. Every trait or quality you possess serves a worthwhile purpose. Moreover, any trait or quality that you think you lack, you actually have. That's good.
I like that.
Make a list of all the things about you that you don't like. Ooh, that's hard.
That's so hard. Very therapeutic.
Think about how each of these things serves you and others in some way. Next,
Wow.
make a list of all the things you do like about yourself. It's natural to believe that your positive qualities undoubtedly serve both you and others. However, for every perceived positive thought is also negative. Now think about the negative aspects of your perceived positives. Ooh, that would be hard too. This is
Yeah.
a hard one. We all have some homework, you
I
guys.
know,
Yeah, no
right?
kidding.
Digging deeper.
This process takes a bit of time and requires an open heart and mind. It is definitely a worthwhile exercise, for in the end, you will hopefully see that nothing is actually good or bad. Every aspect of you serves both you and others. Oh, I love that.
That's like
Wow,
It's so
that's great.
true.
it's like intense. And I feel
Yeah.
like about it, it's almost being called out, which I like love in a sense, but like wow.
That is
So
awesome.
good. That is so good. What
It's
a
so
great
true because
yeah.
yeah, like it's so true because it's like we always look at things as good or bad. But like even in the yoga culture, like in spiritism, like there is no good or bad. There's none. There it just is.
Yes,
It just
it
is.
just is. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous. I love
That's
that.
amazing.
You know?
What a
Yeah.
card.
And I am pulling from my animal spirit as I usually do from Kim
Yeah.
Kranz, and I got the gazelle. The gazelle
Ooh.
today. So the gazelle means heightened awareness and ability and vulnerable. So the gazelle represents supreme grace with every move. This awe-inspiring beauty emits sophistication and elegance. Gazelle personalities are often hyper aware of their surroundings, bordering on hypervigilant, and this can inhibit them from enjoying the beauty they've spent so much effort cultivating. No more worrying about all those predators that are out there in the wild. When this card appears, it's time to get back to the present moment. Sit down, find your breath, and acknowledge the bounty that surrounds you. Let it nourish your gentle spirit. Yeah. So when you're in balance, we feel graceful, perceptive, and artistic. When we're out of balance, we may have food allergies, insomnia, or a racing mind. And to bring it to balance, yin yoga, a cozy home, and good food.
Well, then
Wow.
there you go.
That
Karmen,
little bow
nourishment,
on top.
breath.
Exactly. Yeah. Yoga. I'm like, yeah. As soon as
All
I pulled
works
it, I
out.
was like, because when you pull a card and you're like, that's not the right card. I'm like, ah, just pull it because it's, like, yes.
I
Well, that's
love that.
fabulous. Yeah, I do. I adore that. I do
Amazing.
hope people like take this episode as that, like,
Yeah.
it's not that, just I keep coming back to your card. It's not that we want to look for the bad in ourselves, but like the things that we think are bad, we have to really sit with them, and we have to, encounter them and engage in that. Otherwise, we don't know, right? And we can't let the fear of being bad at something rule how we move forward. So, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I
that's
love
crazy.
that. And I love that one that you just pulled, the gazelle. It's like how I can't remember what you said, but it was like everything around you, uh,
Or bring it up here.
it's like
Yeah,
overwhelming. I feel that. I felt that part of me, like in me, the sensitivity of me,
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I
they
don't
are
know what it was.
often hyper aware of their surroundings, bordering on hyper vigilant, and this can inhibit them from enjoying the beauty they've spent so much effort cultivating. Get so busy and wrapped up in
Yes.
it that we forget that, the table we've set, basically, or the scene we've set.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I lived a lot of my life like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Worrying about everything else around me. It was just so overwhelming, everyone's feelings and just getting wrapped up into that
Yeah.
resonates with me a lot.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that this was
Very
like food for your thought. And I hope that, whoever hears this as well, I hope, one of these messages, or if not all of them or whatever, hit home for you and can
Yeah.
take some heart home with you.
Puppy.
I saw a
Sorry,
puppy
like
wagging in the back.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, a
this is
perpy.
Duke.
Yeah. Oh, hello, Duke.
There's Duke.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
Like what? For me?
If you're watching on
Okay.
YouTube, you should
There's
Yeah.
jump
Duck.
on and look at that puppy.
A puppet. Yeah. Right on.
Oh my
Well,
God.
Karmen, where can everybody find you?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram. I'm not like super consistent on Instagram, but I do post, especially with my events and things like that. So it's just at Karmen Currie, K with a K, KarmenCurrie.
Perfect.
I also have a website. Again, it's just KarmenCurrie.com
Nice.
or email carmen.currie@outlook.com.
There you
Love
go.
it.
Yeah,
Perfect. I love it.
it's pretty
That's
simple.
fabulous.
Today.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for all of our listeners, thank you for being here and continuing to support us through your listening ventures and liking us and all of that on Instagram and TikTok. And we honestly do appreciate it. And we love that, like, we're just still loving this journey. I don't know about you, Britt, but I still am.
I
So
know I do. I wouldn't
yeah.
do it if we didn't like it anymore.
Exactly. Well,
Yes.
you guys can find us, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Basic Banter for Witches. And you can email us, basicbanterforwitches@gmail.com. And then we'll be back next week
You betcha.
with something. We don't know yet. With something.
It's all a mystery.
Ooh,
We'll never know.
Exactly.
Amazing. Okay,
Very
thanks
nice.
again. Karmen, don't go anywhere. We need for a hot second after we finish recording here, but it was so nice to hear,
See, both.
be a
See,
part of your week.
be a part of your week. I think that's
Oh, yeah.
great. Yeah.
We love it. And we will see you guys next week.
See you later.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Karmen. Bye.
Bye.